Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I'm your host, Gal Swisa Cohen. 3 years ago, my family and I moved to Long Island with a clear mission: to serve as the living bridge between the people of Israel and the incredible community here. Out of this journey, I created the Israeli Bond, a podcast designed to tell the story of Israel and its people beyond the headlines. We are here for the authentic, the personal, and the direct stories that bring us close together. This podcast is a production of the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center of Nassau County, New York. And it is thanks to their vision and support that this content is brought to you today. So let's begin with our guest today, Omri Goshen. In a couple of words about Omri. He's a reserve major in the Israeli Paratroopers and a researcher at the David Institute for National Security and Strategy Studies, part of IDSF, Israel Defense and Security Forum. And his work focuses on Israeli national security strategy, which we will talk about today, civil-military relations, and the evolving regional balance of power in the Middle East. He is also an alumni from the Israeli delegation in Long Island. So, hi, Omri. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So this is actually our second episode together. The first one was 2 weeks ago when we talked in general about the war with Iran. We also mentioned the resilience of the Israeli public. But today, as we enter the fourth week of the war, which is a multi-front now, right? It's not only Iran, it's also Hezbollah. The resilience is in some kind of the ultimate test. And this is also related to our episode today that is about the Israeli national security strategy that you developed along with your fellow researchers in the David Institute, and you presented right before the war had started. And before we dive into this, to the Israeli national security, what is it, and talk a little bit more on that, I want to start with a personal note. So as I said, we're 3 weeks into the war, starting the fourth week. We don't know when or how it will end. During this time, people of Israel go in and out of shelters. All of Israel is threatened by missiles, either from Iran, ballistic missiles that already caused casualties, as we saw only 2 days ago. And also in the northern border of Israel, a lot of missiles from Hezbollah all the time. Schools are closed. People are really afraid of going in the streets, even going on the roads. Just today, we heard about a bus that has been hit by a missile today with casualties. So this fear is real. And I wonder, we talked about resilience 2 weeks ago. Is it still the state currently in Israel from your personal perspective, but also what's the word on the street?
It is getting more challenging, of course, as the time goes by. But I think the resilience is still high. Today we've heard some news about President Trump saying we want to talk with the Iranians, and the Israelis are in panic. I mean, we don't want to. We are done with buying quiet. We want to get the job done. We understand now this is the right way to act in Lebanon, in Iran. Of course, it's connected to the national security doctrine that we're going to talk about. But I think alongside with the challenges, there is a deep understanding in the streets here that it can be long, but it's important, and I think we're still willing to endure this situation.
Okay, we will tap into this quiet, we'll met with quiet later on in this conversation. So let's dive into the Israeli national security doctrine that you presented a couple of weeks ago. So I can tell you that as Israeli that doesn't come from a security world, and I think most of the listeners of this podcast are feeling the same way. The last 2.5 years have portrayed Israel as a regional security powerhouse. We've completely reshaped the Middle East and fought our greatest enemies. It almost feels like there is a grand master plan written somewhere by generals or ministers, and that October 7th was just a localized failure within the plan. But from your work, I understand that that's not exactly the case. Is it right?
It is. The ability, the military ability, the intelligence ability, and that was always there. That wasn't our problem, really, never. It's always been the policy and the big strategy, and there's a big difference, and I think this is what people have to understand. There's a big difference between my ability to act and what I'm choose to do.
So I didn't understand what you're saying is that the ability was there, but the army, the Israeli army, become kind of a national strategist. Now, that might sound like a weird thing for the listener from the U.S. because here, usually the strategy is made by the political echelon, the civilian leaders, and the military executes. But in a country like Israel, that it is in a constant threat, isn't it not make sense that the military, which are the professionals in security, will take the lead on the military or the security strategy, while the government will take the lead on the civilian strategy?
No, because national security doctrine is a different thing from military security strategy. So the military security strategy, it's just one part of national security. National security basically is the sum of all the core interests and goals of a nation that are later translated into strategy, military strategy, and policy. It can be economics, it can be even education in some cases. It can be, military, of course, and demography. So there's a lot of aspects of national security. And if you don't see it as a whole, that's a problem. And I think that was one of our problems during the year, that we saw national security only as military security. And I think the most important question, the most fundamental question that a state should ask herself is, what is necessary to preserve my country? What is the essence of my country? Now, this is not a military question, right? It's a very, if you wish, political question, right? Who am I as a country? Now, Britain will have a different answer than the U.S., and of course a different answer than Israel. And if Israel will be a country that will have a safe borders or a strong economy, but it won't be Jewish anymore, is that mean my national security is safe? And my answer is definitely no. And I think this is the core problem of our story in Israel.
So from how you present it, it sounds like it's kind of a joint plan of a lot of different bodies within Israel. The army is one of them, but also like education and many other institutes or like ministers maybe in Israel. And I wonder, is it something that does other countries have it, or only Israel should have it? Is it like completely innovative to have this kind of doctrine?
No, of course. The Trump administration published 2 documents like that in the past month, I think.
That includes everything, not only like military security, but also education security.
So in some cases, I don't think I don't think the United States education is part of national security, but
So what exactly is this doctrine? So I try to understand like the core of it, of what you presented.
the core of this is what is my interest, what is my biggest interest as a country, and what are my goals as a country. So, for example, for Europe or for China, keeping the Hormuz Straits open is vital to their national interest, right? Because they don't have a lot of oil. So that's part of their national interest, of course. For the U.S., it's not that big of a deal because U.S. is a oil producer. So that's a very small but small example of that. In Israel, for example, one big interest is the demography, right? We want to be we want to have more Jews here in Israel. Otherwise, we won't be a Jewish state. So that's one example. I can give you a lot of other examples, but to understand what is a national security doctrine, so it have to start with those big, heavy questions. Otherwise, we get confused and we get a big vacuum. And to this vacuum, and this is exactly the Israeli case, to this vacuum, we got a lot of other things that making our decisions, strategy, and policy wrong.
Okay, so just if I get you correct, you're saying that it's basically what's the priorities? What's the priorities of a state? And from these priorities, you cut what should we do in this or this case, whether this case is should we go in a war or not, or this case is should we accept aliyah from other places or stuff like that. So it's basically the priorities of the country. So, and from what I understand from you, these priorities that is built to guard the security of Israel are absent. So first of all, it's very surprising. It sounds like, as I said, 2.5 years ago of completely changing the Middle East, really making Israel a powerhouse in the Middle East. And you're saying that there is no like master plan like that, and there's no really priorities. So basically, you're saying there is nothing like that. So there is vacuum into which the military is entering, who is now taking the shots on these questions.
First of all, you spoke about 2.5 years ago. The sad story is that we needed October 7 to start to act like a regional superpower. We are not the same Israel security-wise as we did before, as we were before October 7th. And to some extent, that this is one of the causes of October 7th. So since the days of Ben Gurion, which left some documents, papers, and articles, but never gather it to an official paper, to official security. He left some pillars. We all know in Israel the 3 core pillars, which is one, decisive victory in ground military, decisive victory, deterrence, and early notice when we got attacked. So he said a lot more, but everyone remember those 3. Now, what happened is if you don't have an official doctrine, you get this vacuum And during the time those pillars gets wrong interpretations. The I think the big example for that is the shift of how we think about deterrence. So deterrence is a good thing to have, right? I want my enemies to be deterred, but deterrence is a tool. It's not a purpose, because I can be sure that my enemy is deterred. We thought that Hamas will never have the courage to attack us. We understand we didn't have a clue. So I can be 100% sure that my enemy is deterred. And so over the years, we took deterrence, and we shifted from being a tool to being the purpose, right? We said we are a villa in the jungle, and we want quiet of all cause. And we left outside the decisive ground victory, which have prices. We have prices, economic prices, of course, in human life, and we didn't want to pay this price. We wanted to keep the quiet. Ben Gurion also spoke about deterrence, but he says, I want to buy some time for my country. I'm a young country. I need to get stronger in economy, in military. This is what I want, deterrence. So we got this example of one thing that got very different interpretation.
So now you presented a new, or to the lack of this, this void, to this vacuum, you presented a new national security doctrine. Can you tell us in a nutshell what this doctrine, or like really in the big like pillars of it, what does the doctrines includes?
It's important to know that a lot of other organizations published a paper like that during the years. None of them got an official recognized from any government. I do know the current government working on something like that right now. We will see. Basically, our paper, our doctrine says, first thing, the most important thing is the connection between our identity, who we are, what is important for us, what is our essence as a Jewish state, and this bridge to the what we need to do, what we want to be. Okay, the first example is that we talk a lot about settlements. Now, it's not just settlement in Judah and Samaria. It's also to settle in the Galilee, in the Negev, right? To establish settlements all over Israel.
So you're saying settlement in the Galilee is, for example, Kiryat Shmona is a settlement for your perspective?
Yes, but we already are in Kiryat Shmona. But the Galilee and the Negev, if you're talking about percents, there is not a lot of Jewish settlement in the Galilee and in the Negev. Very small percent. This is bad. We are losing it to others. And when you're not in a place, so there's this not a very weak economy there. You know what it's like to be in a hospital in Kiryat Shmona or in Tel Aviv, right? Very big difference, and that's because we are not grounded in those areas enough. And this is the settlement issue is basically it's a security thing, because if you are in some place that's I mean, you have to be in there also in military terms, but it's also this is our purpose. This is what Zionism is, right? To live a full life in the land of Israel. This is why we came for here.
So the first pillar is settlement, meaning that more Jewish villages within the Israeli border. What else?
So we're talking about the four arenas of Israel. One is the battle of regional hegemony. We're talking about Israel being superpower in our region and being active as a superpower in our region. There's the battle of sovereignty, right? So we have a lot of problems in Israel. Um, there's a lot of illegal weapon in Israel, mainly in the Arab society. This is not a criminal thing; it's a national security thing. Because when I'll have, you know, a war starting in I don't know, in the south, and the roads will be blocked by I don't know some militias, and that that can happen. Uh, this is bad, and this is bad for the national security. It's not just an domestic issue.
Yeah.
We have the battle of the narrative. Israel is not fighting the international narrative, and we're talking about the battle of the um, identity here in Israel, Jewish Israeli identity. These are the four arenas. So this is an integrated doctrine. We wanted to cover some topics that usually don't find their ways into those kind of papers. We're talking about decisiveness or decisive victory as a core pillar, and we also talking a lot about the economic and technological dominance. We see Taiwan, for example, as a great model. We as a Israel as a small country have to have superiority in the core elements of the future of technology. It could be AI, robotic, space, infrastructure, or energy. One of them, at least, we have to dominate.
So, all in all, if I can get it correctly, you have four fights that you're more focusing on. And these fights, you can cut from there a lot of submissions, which is for the narrative, for example, let's fight for Israel to be at the lead of technology or stuff like that. Did I get it correctly?
Yes, I mean we can talk 2 more hours about our paper, but this is the I think this is the most important part. It's the four arenas, the four battles, and again the connection of the identity. I think this is the most important part of the paper as I see it, because if you get this thing right, you get everything.
Which part?
The connection of the identity of the Jewish identity, uh, right? Like again, who we are, what is the essence of Israel as a country, what is different, what is necessary to preserve the Jewish state. This is the most important. I didn't see a lot of papers talking about that, and I think this is what get us all confused in the first place.
And can you elaborate a little bit, what does it include, this identity issue?
I think we've covered it, but basically in our paper we're talking first of all about us being again a Jewish state, and that affects the everything else basically. again, we spoke about settlements as one example of this connection. But the first part of our paper is we laid down the elements of the identity of Israel as a Jewish state, and I think this is the first place. This is the first thing we have to do. Before we're talking about how many tanks, how many F-35 we have. This is the first thing we have to do. And this it's not any news, right? But I think this is written in national security doctrine paper. This is the most important thing.
Yeah. So you're saying we need to have this strategy built in the prime minister office, or like the government, so that from this strategy, all the other decision, whether it's going on a war or deciding which village should we open and which even law should we pass, would be according to this paper, to this doctrine, to this vision, kind of like the vision of Israel. If we were a company, this is the vision, and according to this vision, we need to get our decisions. It's very surprising that there is no such thing for Israel, I must say, as Israeli, of course, but I guess that the listeners here that knows Israel, loves Israel, might be also very surprised. We really need to finish, but before we do, I know that part of your article, but also part of the doctrine talks about a change in policy from peace will met by peace, or quiet will met by quiet, actually, which was the main policy that we saw Israel is acting upon, mostly with Hamas, but I can tell you that also with Hezbollah on this current war. But it is a little bit, looks like it is changing, because this current war that we're in, basically Israel, with a collaboration with the United States, which is a whole different topic and very something that super noted and appreciated and needs to be studied. But anyway, Israel and the US attacked together Iran, even though Iran hadn't started this war. So this is a whole different policy. It looks like, so this policy is changing. But as I mentioned before, if we're going to this change of policy thing, so what it means for the Israelis currently is that we are going to have a never-ending war, right? Because our enemy is not going to change. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. And if we're into this policy of not quiet, we'll met with quiet, but attack first, or enforcement. So this is a very problematic message. And I wonder how this policy looks in practice, and do you think that, according to your doctrine, the Israelis public needs to be ready for a very, very, very long war?
So first of all, yes, we do see a change, a big change in the Israeli, not just policy. I think it's a change in the Israeli doctrine, which is it's a very good thing. The only problem, and again, we needed October 7 to remind us that this is how we have to act in this neighborhood. I don't know what will happen 5, 10, 20 years from now, after October 7, if we're gonna move again to this quiet for quiet doctrine. Yeah, right now Israel is acting peace through strength. This is a very good thing, because it's the only way to end wars. I don't think the reality has never different here. So it's true we had some long years without war here. That doesn't say the situation was better than now. I think um, 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 in all our battles right now, we're in a better situation that we had before October 7th, right? War is raging in a lot of places right now, uh, but we are better. I mean,
Yes, but the Israeli public has stayed in shelters, in and off shelters for 2.5 years. So do you think, or your doctrine leads to more state like that, like a war state in Israel, in order to enforce this kind of doctrine, this kind of policy?
the sad truth is we are not in Europe. We live in a very tough neighborhood, and in order to endure this reality, again, I think we have to understand why we are here. Why here? Why not in Europe? Why not in Uganda? Right? Um, and I think it's, I'd rather be in the shelter for 2 years and stay alive than being um, I've heard a nice, it's not nice, but someone says, I rather wake up 10 times a night than wake up one time in 6/20/29, October 7th. I think that says it all.
Definitely, I agree. I really hope that there's a middle here between going in and out of shelters like Israelis are doing now and 6/29 on October 7th, which
So I believe so. I think we are in the edge of our golden age in Israel. I do believe so.
from you know how you say it in Hebrew, from in Israel, from your mouth to God, מהפה שלך לאללה. So thank you so much, Omri. We can talk about this topic for ages, and we haven't really tapped into the main parts of this doctrine, but that was fascinating. And thank you so much. And really stay safe in there in Israel. Hopefully we will come to this edge sooner than later, and we can have a Passover night safely with our families. But until then, thank you, Omri. And thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Israeli Bond. If you enjoyed exploring the information, history, and stories of today's conversation, be sure to check out our other podcasts here on hmTv. Please subscribe, share, and stay connected for more engaging conversations. And until next time, take care and be well.